Hello, dear wanderers. Guys, today I would like to change your perspective about weeds.
In almost every garden, weeds are seen as troublemakers. The plants we pull, toss aside, and try to forget. But what if I told you those very weeds can be transformed into a gift for your soil? Today we are going to make weed tea, not for drinking, but for feeding. This simple brew turns nettles, dandelions, and other white plants into a powerful tonic, rich with nutritions your garden craves for. It's a cycle of renewal. What once was called waste becomes life again, flowing back into the roots of our vegetables, flowers, and trees. Today I will show you how to make it step by step.
So guys, a basic definition of weed. It's actually a plant. It grows where it should not. We can utilize these and use it for our advantages. Let me show you how. So the first and the most obvious things to do, if you have a compost heap, just leave it on the top. The other thing what you can do, it's basically just take the weeds off and then smash them down a bit and then just put them back on the top, and it will dry out and eventually will decompose. I don't really like this method because if you pick up more matured weeds, and literally you just help the weed to spread. So after some weeding, get some weeds in here. If you have any garden scissors, chop it up a bit. Usually I don't really like to use gloves, but I just put this on because there could be a lot of spiky stuff, so I recommend to use some gloves as well. So you see, we cut it up in nice and small, and I'm just going to transfer this. So this container, it doesn't have any hole, right? Because it needs to hold the water for us. Adding some compost as well, which contains good bacteria. I get some water, a bit of rainwater. You're a bit lucky in here because I can use rainwater. But if you don't have access to rainwater, obviously you can use just ordinary tap water as well. See you in 2 weeks. And guys, if you have someone in the family who loves bananas, you can get the banana peel and put into your tea as well, as it's really rich in phosphorus and potassium. And that will be a perfect ingredient as well when you're making some organic fertilizers. So guys, I just wanted to catch up on this weed tea fertilizer after a week. How's this going? And let me show you. So let's start from here. You see all the bubbles and the bacteria. It's working hard to turn this blend something wonderful and usable for us, where you can hear and see and especially smell straight away that it's a bit pungent smell, that's for sure. So it slowly started to break down all the wheat tissue. This is really promising as well. So as I said, there we are at after a week, but as you see how Floki loves bananas, I thought that we're going to add transparent experiment as well. So I will get all the banana peels what he had, and then I also want to quote unquote sacrifice one of the tubes. So I will add this material into the mix. But you know what, let's do 2. I would not recommend, guys, that you do this indoors because it's really, really, really smelly at this stage. And I guess that it will just get even worse, quote unquote worst. Hey guys, welcome back you all. So after 3 weeks that we let this cocktail mature, kind of like awful. I'm from the farm, so it's not, you know, that horrible. Got used to it when I was growing up as a kid. In the first week, it was really, you know, smelling like grass cuttings. But then now, it's more like cow manure or horse manure, which is really interesting. It's not that bad. It's like, you know, if you're not got used to it, you should say that it's pretty horrible. It smells nice for the purpose what we want for. Let's sieve it down and then we will see from there. So I got a sieve, which I'm never going to use in the kitchen again. Alrighty guys, so we got 3 of these full as our tea, and then I decided that I will leave one for another month, and then I kept all this pulp smoothie stuff to mature even more. So we're going to leave these 2 and we will come back to them. So now I sieved all our cocktail. You can just put them into, you know, different containers. I wanted to brew beer last year and I kept these really, really cool glasses and bottles for it, all cleaned and washed, but I never ended up making it. You never know what your beer bottles can hold in the future. I'm gonna get our funnel in here. Actually, let's do the big one now so we see the color of it. Careful when pouring this stuff. Yummy. I will just loosely put the lid on because if that will create more gases, I don't really want that bottle to explode. So I want to leave some up in here at the glass houses, and I want to test something down in our garden. I will show you that later. So I'm going to bottle up a few of these just to be transportable down to home. If you're wondering, yeah, the only purpose why I grew my beard, it's perfect microphone holder. You know, I've seen a good few videos online about this technique, method, whatever you want to call it, recycling, organic material, DIY, whatever. Not many of them, they tested it. You know, like, we can just, you know, call it a day in here, and I will tell you that, yeah, that will be grand. Use for your fertilizing, kind of like 1-to-1 ratio, or like every video mentions kind of like a different ratio how you should use it. I've never really seen people testing it that does it really worth your effort, right? Obviously, if it's free weed, you have free water, all etc. But does it actually work? And what I was thinking of, and not just that I lose my accountability, but myself, I want to, you know, test if this thing work actually. So I ordered a soil test kit from the Big A online shop. When I was going to finish the bottling, actually I want to go through with you guys how the test will, you know, look on these wheat tea fertilizer. Okay, so let me finish bottling up and we will get to this. So guys, I actually ended up coming back home because at the glass house was way too hot and the camera was just shutting down every 3 minutes. So we continue our experiment from here. Let's get through this test and what it says. I'm not going to read you through this manual because I guess every single test it's kind of different, so but I really recommend that you following the manual. So let's start with the pH. It smells nice, lookies. You put it in. You see, according to our chart, we are on a slightly acidy way. I would say like between the two. So it's like from between 6 and 7. That's not bad. And while we wait, I will do the phosphorus and the potassium as well. It looks that it takes a bit more than a minute for the other components to show up. So while we are waiting, this will be the ultimate test. I have 2 apricot trees here, which I grew them from seed. Just germinated in February, and they are kind of the same height and the same thickness. So what we're going to do, it's basically we're going to treat one of them just with rainwater. I don't think that will be fair if I will use any other fertilizer, because chemical fertilizers are made for being heavy in all these components what we need for plant growth. So one, I'm just going to water with pure rainwater, and this one I'm going to make a mix of, I'm going to use, let's say half or 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to fill this jar up with our freshly brewed. We'll make a mess, but after I've cleaned out. Oh no, okay. So 1 cup. So that's 1. I'm really curious about this experiment, to be honest, because if that would work, I have a lot of weed material to use in the future, so I can just literally, do it all the time, and I will have liquid fertilizer. I printed out on the labels that this experiment started on the 19th of June, which is today. Let's see what you see there. So let's say it's 30 centimeters. This 36. I think this way will be a proper demonstration of how this fertilizer actually work. I was trying to think of anything negative, quote unquote, about this, but let's see, the negative stuff is that it stinks. It's really pungent smell. Yeah, even when it's diluted, it really good smell, which hopefully that's the good bacteria and the good stuff in there. I should have used gloves, obviously, which I didn't, but I encourage you as well. I was not expecting that this will be that. That's the only thing. As I mentioned when we started this experiment, I wouldn't do this inside. So I will leave them in the glass house or the greenhouse. And as we said, we will come back to it. So see you later. I think that's kind of did the job. Is the phosphorus, which looks kind of like P4 compared to the chart. So that's not bad. It didn't really change any color. So I cannot say much. I did actually, this is the second one as test, because I tested the first and I thought I did something wrong, so I did it again, and it doesn't really look anything close even to pink, which it should be. I'm kind of the exact same with the potassium, although it's hard to tell because it's like orange, but it's still just as its own color. Although this is after like 15 minutes. So while we are waiting for the experiment of using this stuff, I thought, can we even push it more further? I will try to make my own powder out of this wheat tea. So I got a portable stove, which is a gas powder stove, cooking for outside. So I got this 1.5 liter pot, which we never going to use it in the kitchen again after this experiment. So what I'm going to do is basically I'll put this on, and then I'm going to add all this wheat tea into the pot. I'm going to reduce the water out of it as much as I can. What you see in here and why it's different, this is still a bit more green and this is turning kind of totally black. because this one was like in these beer bottles. It wasn't, you know, properly closed, but I just kept the lid on it so if the gases wanted to escape. So it didn't reacted with that much oxygen, and this one did. So after a bit of more oxidization, a bit more on the brown or black side, and this is guys totally normal. Even the pungence of the smell, it's kind of like dimming down a bit more. It smells much more like a normal quote unquote chemical fertilizer. But I will keep this because this is our mix. The plant material is breaking down even further more, and it's producing all sorts of chemicals. They have like tannin as well, which is a natural kind of like coloring. So if you see this after a week, you don't need to, you know, panic yourself, because that's totally normal. And then, as I said, the smell is getting nicer, quote unquote, if I can say. So let's see. I'm just going to add this into it. Please don't do this experiment inside. Also, guys, don't drink this, okay? This is not for you, this is for your plants. So you can get, I never tried it, but I'm not really willing to or planning to. But please don't drink this, okay? Don't give it to your pets, or this is for our plants, okay? So after cooking it for 2 hours, this is what we ended up with. Going to scrape off all these powder from the sides of the pot. So when you do the liquid one, that's definitely worth it. No question about that. That's not much labor, hence it's kind of ready in quote unquote no time. You just need like 2 weeks for ferment. Does this powder worth it? I will leave that to you. If you make a lot of the liquid one and then you have a bigger pot and then you don't really mind the smells, then might be worth it. So guys, you will be the judge on this, okay? So let's see what we got after 2 months. So guys, here we are after more than 2 months, tiny more than 2 months. We started this experiment on the 19th of June with these 2 test subjects. The results speaks for themselves. Let's see what we got in growth. So that's 50 centimeters from the pot, and this one, it's got 60. For trunk thickness, I don't think that it's a huge difference between the 2. But what is the biggest difference between the 2 apricot trees or seedlings is what you see in here. Without the wheat tea fertilizer, we just have a straight trunk and it didn't start to divide anywhere. And with this one, this is the main difference between the 2. Thanks to the phosphorus, as you see in what we did with soil test kit. So it's divided as 1 point of division, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see what the roots will show us. Let's start with the rainwater. You see the really nice and tiny roots all over the place. Let's just put it down in here to comparison. Then let's see the wheat tea fertilizer. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks the roots are a bit more active than on the rainwater, and also you see more major roots forming. The bottom also shows some differences. So it looks like, again, thanks to the phosphorus, it started to grow more healthier roots than the other one. So guys, here I'm ending off this cool experiment. Let's get some conclusion or what I thought about it. Let me know what you think about it if you try this ever out. Would I use just this tea fertilizer for my trees? I would not. I would not, because so if we can rely on the results of the soil test, which showed a lot of phosphorus but literally zero potassium and nitrogen, then no. Would I use it as a supplement? Definitely yes. If we see, especially in bonsai, we need a lot of branch division. If the wheat tea fertilizer can help with that, I will definitely use it as a supplement. There were a few things of pros and cons what we mentioned before. It's totally free if you have time. It's raining. Started to rain, which is great because we didn't get rain more than a month. Weird times in Ireland. Anyway, so I will definitely use this as a supplement to encourage more branch division. Will not use it just as itself, because as we see, it's a bit of lack in nitrogen and potassium. As we mentioned, it's all for free. It doesn't really require much attention and work at the end of the day. The other side, it's really, stinks and it's really pungent smell. If you want to go to the way of more organic fertilization, that's definitely one of the ways. I might add to the weed mix more fish bone or fish blood or some really organic fertilizers, and then mix with the tea what we just brewed. So here we are. It was a cool experiment. Thank you so much for staying me for this long, and see you all next time.